What's up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of Charm City Heavyweights, brought to you by Grade 8 Sports Memorabilia in Parkville, Maryland. I'm the host, Matt Trigger. With me is my co-host. It's been a minute, Josh Merrill. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, Matt? Coming live from the Man Cave. Welcome everybody back to the Man Cave. The star of the show is back. The show is back. The Orioles are playing like shit. I don't know what the fuck you want to talk about here on internet, Matt. They suck right now. It's hard to watch.
It's a little tough to watch right now. We're going to talk a little bit of Orioles baseball.
If we don't talk about the bullpen tonight, then shame on this show, shame on all of us, because that's what we need to talk about.
We have a lot to get to, my man. We have a lot to get to. We have two special guests tonight. Both are recurring guests of the show. We have the host of No Bull Sports, Brian Ellis, and Pressbox Online contributor, media personality, and new Penn State Masters Program honoree, Kyle Andrews. This is going to be a Baltimore-themed show tonight, folks. All the Baltimore sports. What's going on, fellas?
Doing well.
Hey,
Doing well.
what's happening, Matt?
So, let's just kind of dive right into it, fellas. Orioles are not looking good so far against the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Nope.
They spoiled
Errors.
spoiled Grayson Rodriguez's return to the majors last night.
Whoa!
Even though
I don't want to say that.
They spoiled. No, I didn't say he spoiled it. They had a little bit of a snafu with Brian Baker.
All right.
Brian Baker giving up the grand slam yesterday. The middle relief has been absolutely atrocious for for recent memory. So let's kick it around the horn a little bit, Josh. Let us hear your thoughts, man. I know you got a lot you want to say.
Well, right now I'm just angry because the way they're playing, their errors. We can't make normal ground out plays against a veteran team where everybody can hit. Wells has had an unbelievable season, had a great season last year, but he needs to, broader his horizon is a better way to put it. He needs to learn to throw a little bit more outside, come a little more inside. It's been working, but he got stroked tonight by a veteran team. And if this team gets in the playoffs, this is what we're going to see down the stretch. My biggest concern is the bullpen, the rotation. Last year, the bullpen kind of fizzled out towards the end, and I'm seeing, I'm afraid of that happening again. I want to see something, man. I want to add a guy. I want to, we're one of the best teams in baseball right now. We need to add something to bolster this team.
I agree with you, Kyle. What's your assessment so far with this bullpen?
Yeah, the bullpen is struggling, and I think it's time to call up the Pirates personally. I think the Pirates, they have somebody in the bullpen that I really like in David Bednar. He's been a guy that I would target. I mean, if I'm them, I know he's a Pittsburgh native, and it's going to be tough for them to part ways with him. But the thing is, bullpen arms are one of those things that you give somebody a prospect, and they're a really good prospect, they're going to be willing to give up a bullpen arm. It's a very I would say, like, volatile position in baseball. Bullpen is always going to be up and down. But if you can find a guy that can do it the right way, that is good, a Bednar, I know some people are like, I've heard so many people say, hey, let's try to get Josh Hader back in Baltimore. I don't know how that's going to work. I've heard, another trade that was interesting to me too involved Eduardo Rodriguez as a starter, and then I think it was one other guy, and I'm going to completely blank on his name from Detroit, where they were actually looking at him as well in a potential trade. And I'm like, if they can do that, where they could get a starter, especially a left-handed starter, and you get a reliever that's been pretty good, I'm sure they'd probably have to give up a good amount to get that. But the thing is, you got to bolster that bullpen somehow. I think the starting rotation needs a jolt in the arm. They need a shot in the arm immediately because, not that I think and Tyler Wells is a bad start. It happens. I'm not worried about him otherwise, but some of the other guys in the starting rotation, you look at Kyle Gibson. You move Cole Irvin, who actually Cole Irvin had a pretty decent outing tonight. Goes 4 innings, only gives up 1 run. I'm not too concerned about him as a long reliever. I think he'll be okay as a long reliever. That's fine, especially when you have a right-handed starter that doesn't go as long. So I just think it's things that they have to add to it. I mean, Dean Kramer scares me every time he goes out there because he so many hard hit balls. And if you look at his numbers on StatCast, they're awful. But somehow he keeps everything keeps pushing under him. And then Bradish looks like a bat out of hell. I don't know what he's doing, but he's been great past couple starts. So we'll see what happens. And I just think they need to add to both the starting rotation and the bullpen. It's a rough one.
As I'm watching Perez out here struggling, giving up base hit after base hit, run after run. It's just sad.
Yeah,
I didn't like them sending Vespi down. He had a hell of a showing last night. He was solid.
Yeah.
Brian, how do you feel, man? What are your thoughts on this pitching situation right now?
I'm agreeing with both these guys that we need to do something. I think we need to bolster the bullpen and the starting rotation to some degree. I think you could get creative with that by if we get a big marquee name, then that puts one of the 5 guys into the bullpen as a long relief option. There were 5 guys in the rotation. I think Kramer would be an option there. I think he is actually like Kyle, to your point, he has bad metrics, right? But somehow his ERA is not super inflated. He's still getting outs. He's getting out of a lot of jams, which to me makes me think that he's might be better in high pressure situations. That's a little optimistic, but there's no doubt that we need to add a arm that comes in and kind of shows everybody else how it's done. I think Eduardo Rodriguez would be a good one. He was originally here in Baltimore. I think it'd be a coming back party, and he would be the only lefty on the staff. I always believe in if you have, out of 5, if you have all 5 righties or all 5 lefties, it's not good, especially in a 3 or 4 game series. It's good to have that switch up. So I actually agree with that one a lot, Kyle. If we were able to get that one, because we saw him earlier this year, he shut us down. He almost no hit us. So yeah, I think that though, getting an arm and pushing, because trying to get 2, I think you would give up a lot of prospects. It's a tough game with how many we got right now and the potential we could have there with our lineup going forward. So I would say yes. I think an Eduardo Rodriguez. I've said Corbin Burns before, but I think that's kind of been put to the wayside. Any of those White Sox guys, Cease or Giolito, would be good, but I don't know. Rodriguez would be the one I would pick, and then put Kramer in the bullpen, see what he can do.
Now, if I remember correctly, Rodriguez was the trade chip that landed us Andrew Miller in that 2014. The 2012. I think.
That was 2014.
Rodriguez.
Yeah, it was
14.
2014.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Rodriguez was the centerpiece to the Andrew Miller deal to come from Boston.
I think it was a 1-to-1 if I'm not mistaken, too.
Yes. I thought it was like a second low end guy, but I remember Rodriguez was the guy that we sent up to Boston. Right. Another guy that I've been keeping my eye on that I think would be a perfect ace for the stretch run with Baltimore would be Jordan Montgomery from the St. Louis Cardinals. And I don't think it would take as much to get him as opposed to a Giolito or a Cease or a Rodriguez at this point. One person that I'm really seeing is a little bit interesting, Josh, and I want you to chime in on this. they were talking today that Mountcastle has options left to be sent back down to the minors, and it looks like he's being kind of pushed out of the lineup because they're not taking Santander out. O'Hearner's earning more at bats, and they're saying that Mountcastle could potentially be a trade chip for a middle relief arm or a starting pitcher.
Man, I earlier in the beginning of the year, that would have made me so happy because I don't know how many episodes I was saying that get something for Mountcastle. But I kind of fell in love with him this year. His numbers aren't off the charts, but when he's gotten in, he has had a lot of big at bats. Man, he's hit some shots this year too, some bombs. He's gotten better at first base. He still struggles with the scoop at first. But you guys got to remember, he came up as a shortstop. He played shortstop his entire life. So he's still a fairly new first baseman. I know this is what's hard, right? This is what's scary. Like, it's a good problem though, because I like everyone. I like everyone in the minors, you know. I know, but I also understand you got to give somebody to get something, you know. I don't know, Matt. I don't know. I like Mountie, man. I'm starting to like.
Brian, what do you think, man? Mountcastle.
You know, I think Josh is right. I mean, he's somebody that could get hot for us down the road. He's a streaky guy. He's a streaky hitter.
Very streaky.
And what you don't want to happen is you trade him and then he hits 20 bombs in the second half with, you know, whoever you trade him to, leads him to the playoffs because he very well could do that. I mean, he's at the plate. I think he hit a shot down the line last night.
He did.
You know, he's like an imposing figure in the box. If he gets hot, I mean, he's a scary guy to face, you know, for the other team. That being said, you know, I think maybe other teams could see what I'm saying and pay a good price. But we have a lot of guys in the minors that we could move still. And a guy, I know you like Westberg, Matt, and Kauser. I think one of those two guys, because they've had this, you know, month or so in the big leagues to show everybody what they're doing. It'd be like almost a prospect plus that we could trade. But man, that is like a fear I have. We trade Mountcastle, boom, and then he just shows off, you know?
Yeah.
My thought process is circling back to Jordan Montgomery, and Kyle, I'll let you chime in. If the Cardinals do indeed flip Goldschmidt for prospects, adding Mountcastle via Montgomery would probably solidify first base for them while bringing us a front of the line starting pitcher. So I could see Mountcastle going over to St. Louis more so than anywhere else. Maybe Chicago with the Cubs if we can pry Stroman away, but that's going to take some prospects. What do you think, Kyle?
I think if you wanted to get Stroman, I think it would take, you know, Mountcastle, Mateo, some prospects, probably an Ortiz, probably have to give up a Sammy Basallo. I think that's going to be a tougher one. I understand that Stroman is an older guy, but Stroman's been outstanding this year, to say the least. I think another person, this is a name that I was going back to as a reliever, was Jason Foley from Detroit. He's a dude with the long hair and mustache. Looks like he's a guy. He looks like he's from the 80s or the late 70s. Like, this dude is an imposing figure, has you know, some great pitches. I mean, he has a really good ERA right now. I think he's definitely sub 3. Yeah, it's 2.23 ERA right now. And as a reliever this season, I think that's something that they really need to consider. He's been outstanding, to say the least. He has a 1.07 whip. So he's at Detroit right now. He's a reliever, somebody that I will look into. I don't think it would take like an insane amount to get somebody like him because he's not a household name, but he is good. And I think that's something that, if I'm the Orioles, I'm taking that into consideration. I want a guy that may not have that name recognition that everyone knows, but is a really good pitcher and might not take as many to get to add to your bullpen. And then going back to getting starting pitching, I mean, you're going to have to give up a major league ready player. And who's more major league ready than Ryan Mountcastle? And the thing is, Ryan O'Hearn's playing fine. as of right now. He's hitting the ball extremely hard. He's by far if we're talking about guys that are StatCast darlings, that's the guy right there. Like, he's hitting the ball harder than anybody on the team right now.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, when we've seen guys on the team currently hit the ball extremely hard, like Ramon Urias a couple of years ago was hitting the ball extremely hard right into the ground. So how long does this stick with Ryan O'Hearn? I don't know. I mean, hopefully he keeps riding the wave, because he's been really good this season. I looked at Aaron Hicks, same thing with him, but is that just lightning in a bottle? And that's just time to, as we talked about before, is Heston Kierstad that next guy that's going to play first base? We talked a little bit about that before as a potential position for him down the line, especially since he's a left-handed bat. And I think the Orioles are going to try to look toward that going forward and getting a left-handed bat at that first base position once, if Ryan O'Hearn doesn't stick the way that he's been sticking. But those are just some possibilities. And I think Joey Ortiz is a guy that you could flip too. Like, we talked about Colton Cowser and Jordan Westberg being prospect pluses. Joey Ortiz is kind of in that same boat, even though he didn't stick around as much. But I think he's a guy that, if you don't think his bat is ever going to develop, then you got to flip him. And you got to try to throw him in, because the thing is, ultimately, he's still a top 100 prospect. So even if he isn't outstanding, that top 100 prospect listing with his name is going to look pretty good in someone else's organization. And then you got a couple other guys, like you got Dylan Beavers, who's still down there, who I think is really good player. Judd Fabian's another guy.
Power bet. Beavers is a power bet for sure.
Oh yeah. And Fabian's another guy who is a right-handed bat. And that's the thing. He throws left-handed, but he's a right-handed power bat, but he gets on base at a high clip. And I'm wondering if the Orioles are looking at him in a sense of like, how good is he going to be when he gets up to the majors? Like, is he going to be a guy that can hit the ball over the fence with the new left field fence the way that it is? I think they're kind of going away from those right-handed power bats to going for more right-handed guys that can hit it into the gap. So we'll see what can happen. I mean, I'm personally thinking that those are some of the guys that, I mean, Beavers would be a long shot, I think, to move. But I think Fabian from that draft a couple of years ago, I think he's definitely one of those people that I'm like, yeah, I could see him moving too.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. Josh, we just we're back, after the sweeping we swept the Marlins after the All-Star break. I want to kind of circle back to the All-Star break a little bit, guys. How did you feel about Adley's performance in the home run derby, Josh? I know that you got a chance to catch it. We were both down in Ocean City separately. Josh, what do you think of
Why'd you have to make it weird and add that?
I wanted to. I wanted to. I wanted to make it weird for you.
Hell, man.
We didn't hang out.
We hung out.
We did, though.
Josh, what did you think of Rutschman's performance? Do you think that he should have batted right-handed the entire time?
Probably. He was showing off, and he hit some bombs. To me, he stole the show. His dad was throwing it to him, and he hit some bombs. His dad knew right where to put him, and he was just taking them out. I'm not a big fan of Star Guy. I get excited to watch it too. I mean, we've all been watching since we were little kids. We all played it, in the back alley. But I've never been a big fan of the star players doing it. I think it can mess with your swing. Obviously, it hasn't messed with Adley. He just went yard again last night. He's doing fine. But I do think it can mess with your swing. That's always my fear. That was my fear when Tejada won it. I'm like, God, I hope he didn't ruin his stroke.
And Mancini.
So
Mancini. I think Trumbo participated when he was an Oriole, correct?
Yes. I believe so.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've had pretty good luck with, I know Trumbo was a home run and strikeout guy, and Mancini still had a pretty good second half. It was nice to see Adley participate. That's like his hometown area. He's from the Pacific Northwest. like Josh said, having his dad pitch to him. What did you guys think, Kyle? What was your thoughts on the Adley performance?
I think it was cool. I know how sometimes that I look at guys that play in they go to the home run derby and their swing changes a little bit, and it looked like with Adley his swing didn't have to change too much because he already has that wild uppercut swing from the left hand side, and so I don't feel like it affected his swing too much, especially after we saw what he did yesterday. Adley rocked that ball yesterday. I wasn't if I look at it from the perspective of the team, like go have fun, enjoy yourself. That's what he did. It was great for the fans. The fans enjoyed seeing Adley out there. You get him on a national stage. If people aren't already familiar with this game, now you're familiar with this game because this dude is box office. I think he's one of those guys that is going to be a transcendent talent for years to come. And Baltimore would be remiss if they didn't try to sign him to a long-term deal in the next couple of years. But beyond that, I mean, like I said, it was a fun time for the Orioles, and they got him out there. Cano was outstanding. I know Batista had that flub, and then Austin Hayes had that hit. That was cool to see. But I think the four guys represented the team fairly well. And the thing is with Batista, like, look, this dude is the best. He's one of the best closers in the game. And if he had one bad out, and it is what it is, as long as it's in a game that doesn't count, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah,
correct. Brian,
When Batista keeps the ball low, man, he's unhittable.
Yeah. Low, and then low, then 102 above the zone.
Yeah, exactly.
Done. You're done.
You have no chance.
Yeah. I actually I'm going to the game in a few weeks with my father. And we're willing to put a couple extra bucks to sit close enough just so we can see and sense Felix Bautista in case he gets in the game, because that's the best part about going to the game. You can sit somewhere behind the area. But the home run derby, man. I'll say this: it was a little bit deflating watching Luis Robert just completely crush him right after that. But that guy's obviously a monster. But I agree with Josh. He stole the show. I mean, right after he switched, the crowd, you could just kind of tell, you see the excitement. They're very into it, and then just pop, 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 and that's. I don't think anybody would have thought before for him to go right-handed. He's such a much better left-handed hitter, power and contact. But the guys represented well. Felix Bautista blew a save, and it didn't matter. Hopefully he rings off another 15 in a row. It could be that kind of pattern. What else was I going to say? The father pitch it to the son. The only other time I think I've seen it a couple times where it hasn't worked. Cano, I do remember Robinson Cano won with his dad. Yep, that's the but I think like Bryce Harper had his dad or something and pitched terribly in one of the derbies, and then he won another one. I don't know. I don't know how I'd feel with my pops. Like, why were you kept throwing it outside? Come on, what are you doing? How do you talk to your dad after that if he doesn't throw you?
While we're on the topic of the home run derby, before we get back on track, there was a report that the Major League Baseball is going to be implementing a Legends Home Run Derby in 2024. And,
that'd be cool.
And the participants are rumored to be David Ortiz, Albert Pujols, Ken Griffey Jr.
Oh, Ken Griffey Jr.
and Jim Thome.
Jim Thome.
Man,
remember when the Orioles signed him, bro, when he was old as shit?
Oh, yeah.
That was a classic Oriole move, man.
I was on a grounds crew when he got signed. Jim Thome, nicest dude I've ever talked to in my life. Really? He's one of the nicest human beings. I'm glad that he'll be in it, but I would have chosen Frank Thomas, man. I wanted to see
Frank Thomas is rumored to be considered. Apparently, they're gonna make it.
For real.
Oh, nice.
Apparently, it's gonna be. It's gonna. Apparently, it's gonna go on before the actual home run derby, and this is coming on the heels of the report that Baltimore is in the running for the 2025 All-Star game.
I saw that.
So,
as they should,
I don't know about you guys, but we are long overdue. We're still
way overdue. We
still
should have
the
had
nicest
2 more
ballpark in
All-Star
the.
games by now.
We're still the nicest all-star. We're still the nicest baseball stadium in the
Yeah.
country. I'm biased, but I don't care. I'll stand on that.
Shit, it gets voted top 5 every year in all of sports facilities. It gets voted top 5.
I was surprised because Safeco, Seattle was 2001, and we were 92.
Yeah, we should have had 2 by now. Shit.
Yeah.
We should have had a couple by now. You're
It
absolutely
was all
correct.
No,
over.
it's
It was
from
all over.
Massa.
Exactly. It was
of
over
Massa.
Peter Angelo's. Yeah.
And Masson's out of the way now. That
Yep.
whole thing has been litigated and settled. I think that we're going to eventually see a all-star game here. I think it's just gonna be electric. July in Baltimore, it's humid, so the ball's gonna be flying out all over. I know they juice the balls a little bit anyway, but seeing hopefully Adley would participate in that one, and seeing him hit it towards or Gunner hitting it towards the monster would be fantastic.
I'll tell you something cool too. If they can throw in, they're talking about redeveloping that whole area in between Camden Yards and M&T. If that's ready by the time that the home run derby and the All-Star game comes to Baltimore, that's gonna be great to showcase the city. I mean, this city has been
not a lot of time.
A place that it's such a beautiful place, and I think people need to understand that it could be even better than what it is if we just put in the work. It could be so great.
Apparently, the state set $1.2 billion aside for the Ravens and the Orioles to split it down the middle, $600 million apiece, to where they're going to make the area between Camden and the bank similar to what St. Louis has, where they have like the beer garden extravaganza, and it's like all. They have like a glass skylight roof kind of situation going on where it connects both stadiums. So if they can get something like that down there, I mean, that would naturally attract more people, but you would have to exponentially increase parking down there because it's an absolute mess. We all know that. We've all been to games down there, but it would be nice to see the Orioles get the All-Star game. And Kyle, like you said, it would be even nicer if they could get that whole party area, for the attraction.
Even if they did like what Fenway's doing now, where they're adding more housing around too. Like if you add mixed development housing, I think that's going to really add to the area and get better public transit, because we all know in Baltimore the public transit it's rough.
Yeah,
booty.
So I know that we talk about this a lot. Josh and I started talking about this about probably close to a month ago. We are all avid listeners of 105.7 The Fan. And Jason Lockenfora has been banging loudly on the table for the Orioles to go all in for Shohei Ohtani. And Twitter was in a fury last week when they saw Shohei and Adley sitting next to each other. I believe it was on the plane or in the clubhouse or something like that. The amount of prospects and what it would take to get Shohei to Baltimore would be insane. Apparently, the New York Yankees are the front runner for him, which I am looking at the farm system for them. We have the ammunition more so than they do, but they have the money to sign him to what he wants. Because if Shohei gets dumped to the Yankees, I doubt he hits free agency.
No.
If he gets traded to Baltimore, I'm sure he's going to shop around. Even though we are a premier team in baseball right now, we can't be denied anymore. I have no doubt in my mind that we are a legitimate ball club. But the conversation for him to be a 2-month rental, you're talking about pillaging the farm system. I don't agree with that. What do you guys think?
I guess I'll jump in on this one. Hey, look, if you got a chance to get the greatest baseball player that I've seen since Barry Bonds, go ahead and do it, man. Even if it's, because this is the thing. I'll say this, and this is something that I don't think enough people are talking about. John Angelos has not opted into the lease yet. And the thing is, if you go and say, all right, we'll trade for Shohei Ohtani right now, we'll trade, this regime will trade for Shohei Ohtani, and then we'll immediately sell the team. The thing is, this asset becomes exponentially higher. Now you have Shohei Ohtani. you have money that's coming in from the city. Your value on this team is extremely high at this point. So he's going to be able to sell the team at a way higher rate than he would be if like he doesn't have Shohei Ohtani. And you have Adley Rushman, and you have all these other players that are still going to be there that are in the majors. And now you have an appreciated asset that you wouldn't otherwise have. This makes the Orioles one of the most coveted teams in all of sports. I mean, if the Commanders sold for as much as they did, and I understand football very different, but the Orioles go from maybe a team that's worth $2 billion in the sale to a team that's worth like $5-6 billion because now you got Shohei Ohtani and Adley Rushman, and then not to mention you're getting all this money funneled in by the state as well. So I think if you do it, you got to think about it from the long-term perspective. If you're John Angelos, look, I go and make this trade. Now I go poof, sell the team. Now I'm making all this money back, and I got to try to. This is like a 2-month. This would be like a 2-3 month deal with him. And if you were to do that, I mean, I think it would be smart if you wanted to sell. But hey, I don't think he's gonna sell. I mean, that's the other thing. If you want to keep Shohei Ohtani now, you're gonna be able to skyrocket your value either way. So I mean, I think it's one of those moves that you just got to do it. And if you pull the trigger on signing him, look, jersey sales, hat sales, merchandise, you're gonna have the Japanese media there every day. There's gonna be like 30, 40 Japanese members of the media at Camden Yards every day, which is gonna bring an international appeal to the Orioles that I don't think they've ever had. Even when they had Hyun-Soo Kim, he wasn't bringing in people like Shohei Ohtani was, and he coming from Korea. They had Tsuyoshi Wada, who never made any time. He never made it to the majors. That was another thing. And I think had he made it to the majors, would have been huge. I looked down the street in DC with, when Rui Hachimura was with the Wizards, you saw how many media members flocked down there. And Rui was just kind of a bench guy. If you get a guy like Shohei Ohtani, everybody's going to show up to Camden Yards all the time. You don't have to ever worry about, having bad attendance. Attendance is going to shoot through the roof. It's going to be 40,000 every night. And then I mean, I just think that's what if you want to get a player that's going to continually give you value as a business person, I'm getting Shohei Ohtani. If you want to get a guy that is the best player that of this generation by far, it's not even close. It's either him or Trout, and those two are playing together. But Shohei Ohtani gives you more value. I'm taking Shohei Ohtani right now. And if you want a guy that is going to be there for a long time, that's going to be the face of your franchise along with Adley Rushman and bring some value to your franchise, I'm taking Shohei Ohtani. So I think if you make the trade, that's the way I'm coming at it with it. I'm thinking, hey, this is going to help you financially. It's going to help your team out, and this is going to make you, an organization that people actually want to come to, and it's going to be a big deal instead of being, the small market team that, people just used to pity all the time. That's not who Baltimore should be.
Yeah, hey Josh, I know that you got an opinion on this, man. We've talked about this quite often. What are your thoughts? Has anything changed?
No, I mean, I don't believe. I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I mean, it would be smart for business. It would draw a lot of attention. I just wouldn't want to give the farm. To me, I think the Orioles are built for well past this year. And it's kind of reminds me of Lamar Jackson. I don't believe in, selling the farm for one dude. I know he's amazing. We'll never see a guy pitch and hit the way he does at a high elite level. I think when it's all said and done, he may be the greatest baseball player we've ever seen since maybe Babe Ruth. But I don't see selling the farm for one guy, not in baseball.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think that, like to Kyle's point, if you were to use Shohei Ohtani as something to increase your asset, you'd have to guarantee that he's going to be there a long time. You need to have projected revenue out for 5 to 10 years. We don't know if he's going to be doing that. If we get him, we're not going to know that till towards the off season, because he's going to play his year out. And then, like you said, he's going to shop around. And there's been things said about Shohei that he needs he really likes to be on the West Coast, close to Japan. So if he's going to come to the East Coast, he's going to command top dollar to do that. Like we would be, honestly, we would be like we wouldn't be an ideal fit for him at all for what he wants. If it'd be like, oh, Orioles, you want me $650 for you? It's $550 for New York, but it's $650 for you, or $600. That's how I would look at it. And I mean, we have the Chris Davis thing in our background. Shohei's not Chris Davis. I'm not saying that, but we just I feel like management kind of has that horror in their mind of of committing a lot of money to one player, especially when we have Gunnar and Adley that could both command $200 to $300 million a piece. I mean, Gunnar, who knows? So I think that now, that would be amazing. Shohei would come over here. We'd probably be World Series favorites. We would. And then if say we dominate and go to the World Series, maybe Shohei wants it. I think that might be a little bit of a pipe dream. So that's my opinion, but I'm excited to see this. I want to see him go out on the market and see everybody shop for him. I can't wait to see what the final number is. It's going to be very high.
I wouldn't even be shocked if it was like 700 million.
Yeah, me too.
He's the type of guy that you're gonna have to commit so much to him, but it's gonna be fun to watch just because I'm like, this is gonna be nuts. Like he might scrape being a billionaire just from playing baseball, which is nuts. Like this is something that we've never been able to see before, and I'm excited because I just know that whoever gets him, he's gonna have a field day, and I feel like the team that the Orioles are playing against today, they're the favorites to get freaking Shohei. I think Shohei is a LA Dodger, in my opinion.
I agree.
Come this next spring, he's a LA Dodger. He already likes playing close to LA. He'll be in LA. I could see the Giants too, but the Giants, I don't know how much money they'd be willing to commit. Seattle would be an outstanding place for him to play, especially since they have that history of having.
That would be gross if he was in Seattle.
Yeah. And that's the thing. If those teams like the Dodgers, I'm like, yeah, that's a slam dunk. The Yankees, I'm not even thinking about them personally, but the Dodgers, I'm looking at them and I'm like, yeah, Shohei gives me LA Dodger vibes. Like that's a great fit for him.
Yeah, and the thing is with me, like I've listened to multiple people talk about it on the radio. The first player that the Angels would ask for would be Jackson. And
that ain't happening.
For a rental, that's a non-starter because Jackson's our shortstop of the future. He's going to be here for 10 or 15 years, I believe. It would cost literally the whole farm. You're talking about probably them wanting Heston, Kowser, Ortiz, Mayo, Norby. It would take a package that was greater than Juan Soto's package, and it just, to me, it's a non-starter. I think, like Josh said, we're built for well beyond 2023, and I think we need to see that through and attract guys that want to be here. Like you guys all just touched on, Ohtani is a $300 million pitcher, and he's a $300 million hitter, and you got that in one person. And then
it's wild, man. How the fuck does he do that at that level? Like at the major league, the best baseball players on the planet, and you're like it's insane. It's like it's little league for him, man. He's fucking good at everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild as shit to see.
He can play outfield. He's a pitcher. He's an ace, and he's a hell of a designated hitter.
He's on the show when you make your dude overall 99. Fucking does everything good.
And then he's touching 100 miles an hour on a freaking radar gun too. Like, how does he do this?
It's incredible.
Have you seen the other guy from Japan?
Sasaki?
Yeah, he's a freaking monster. This kid's gonna be a beast too. I can't wait to see him come over to the States.
Yeah, I think he's getting posted in the off season.
You think so? Man, if he does, hey, look.
I personally think he gets posted in the off season.
He's too good.
With Shohei's success and a Japanese baseball player being the face of American baseball, more and more guys are going to start to jump ship when they see their status rise. They're definitely going to jump ship, and it's not going to be one or two. It might be in the next 5 years. You could see 4, 5, 6 of their top guys just start matriculating over to stateside. I'm still along the lines that we're going to make a move for a reliever. I think the next couple of weeks is going to really be interesting to see what teams like the White Sox and the Cubs and the Cardinals do. We're all going to be heartbroken because one or two of these prospects that we love are going to be in a different uniform.
That's the hard part about it, man.
It is, because Elias, I see us being like the Astros in the sense that Elias's draft picks and his system is going to work. We're going to get a World Series out of this baseball team. I don't know when, but we're just an arm or two away in the bullpen. And people keep on forgetting about Means. John Means is going to be back within the next month or so. I don't care if Means doesn't make it start the entire regular season. If he's ready to go for October, I'm all in on that. Make him a long reliever. Make it a 6-man rotation. Do what you got to do. Because if we can add somebody like Montgomery or one of these relievers that you guys are talking about, and then add Means back, you got to put your organization's best major league ready pitchers on your staff for the postseason. If that means getting rid of the Perez, hypothetically, and DFA and Perez to activate Means, and then having Means and Irvin as the long men bring up Bruce Zimmerman or Zvespi again, it's got to be one of those situations where we get this train rolling towards October, because I think we're going to be there. The next couple of weeks is going to be very important to us, though, guys. We got the Yankees coming up. We got the Rays coming up.
No, it don't get any easier after this, man.
It doesn't. And then I think the only reprieve we have coming is the Mets, and they're playing awful baseball right now.
That's going to be interesting. Buck coming back.
That's when I'm going to the game, the 6th.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
I'm gonna be at the game too. I'm going
6th?
with a bunch of Sunday afternoon game. 1:30.
See you there.
Yeah, I'm. As much as we've been talking about the Orioles, we're gonna kind of kick it over to the Ravens a little bit to round out our show, guys. The rookies reported today, I believe, and everybody is
football time.
Everybody's due in camp by this time next week. So we are looking at the start of a very highly anticipated Ravens season in the midst of playoff baseball in Baltimore. It's going to be very electric around here. What are some things you guys are looking for in terms of the Ravens for training camp as we approach the start next week?
I would say that one of the main things that this offseason happened, we got a ton of wide receiver talent, right? What's going to happen? I'm interested to see when there's 2 wide receivers out there, when there's 3, when there's 4, who's going to win out of these guys? Who's going to become the 1 and 2? Because I don't really think there's clear-cut favorites. I think, maybe Odell and Rashad, you're going to start out 1 and 2. But I could see Zay Flowers. This guy's special. He could come in and take either one of those guys' times. And then there's a couple of Duvernay is still, he's getting better every year. And then, wild card Laquan Treadwell coming in to, fulfill his destiny as a first-round pick. That'd be pretty sweet.
I like that signing. That made me happy when we signed him.
Yeah.
Can't forget Nelson Aguilar either.
Well, yeah, exactly. Treadwell was like for a bag of pennies. So, I mean, obviously the passing offense is going to be exciting to watch this year. And then I'm actually really excited on the defensive side of the ball to see if Patrick Queen can win his contract somewhere else. This guy has kind of, he's kind of been like, for lack of a better term, kind of kicked out of his position a little bit by, the man, Roquan Smith, the man. I'm so happy we signed that guy. But I'm excited to see what those 2 guys can do together, and I think they're going to dominate.
Kyle, what you thinking, man?
So I just had an article get posted on Baltimore Sports and Life. You guys should check that out. That's about Todd Monken's addition to the Ravens coaching staff. And so,
I read it this morning.
yeah,
Oh, man, check that out.
Monken, he's going to bring some cool things to this offense, I think. Number one, he's got a play action vertical attack. That's something that we saw a ton with Jim Caldwell. Jim Caldwell was attacking the seams. Ravens were running a ton of play action. A lot of gap runs, some zone runs. So it's similar. It's like if you took Gary Kubiak's running scheme and then you added Jim Caldwell's passing scheme, this is very similar to that. And if you, I mean, those two things, those two offenses, as people are really familiar with, that's when the Ravens were at their best. They won a Super Bowl with Caldwell. Gary Kubiak had that offense humming. And I could only imagine how much better it would have been had, Ray Rice not did what he did. But it's like that offense, those two offenses made the Ravens who they were. And the Ravens didn't have a quarterback like Lamar Jackson. That's no offense to Joe Flacco, because Joe Flacco played great those 2 years that he had those two OCs. But I think Todd Monken marries those two offenses together. You're giving Lamar and Odell Beckham, who is going to play pissed off, for lack of a better term. He's going to come back working his butt off. He's been great during the off season, trying to mentor guys, bringing them around. He's got Zay Flowers down there in Florida working out with him. I love that. Nelson Aguilar is coming in trying to prove a point. Laquan Treadwell's trying to come in prove a point. Rashad Bateman has a ton to prove this season. Duvernay's coming back off of injury and trying to bounce back himself. But you got some versatility. You got tight ends. When he was I look at Todd Monken when he was in Georgia, he had Brock Bowers. Mark Andrews is very similar to Brock Bowers. Obviously better because he's in the league, but those are things that it's going to bring a ton to this offense. I mean, if he was able to make Stetson Bennett look like Jesus Christ superstar, just imagine what he's going to be able to do himself.
Guy's been in college forever.
Yeah, he's old. If I'm not mistaken, he's older than Lamar, isn't he?
He's 26.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's older. So like that's another thing too. You're taking a guy that is so freaking talented, and we haven't even gotten to the running backs. The running backs, I'm like, dude, J.K. and Gus Edwards are healthy this season. Ravens mix up those zone and gap schemes with the blocking. I mean, this offense could be significantly better and that hinges on the offensive line. If the offensive line plays up the par, and if this is the biggest, if Lamar Jackson stays healthy, if those two things happen, then sky's the limit for this offense. But if those two things don't happen, and I'm really worried about left guard if I'm the Ravens, because they have no one there that I'm flat out impressed by. But we got to see what'll happen. I mean, I want to see left guard, and I want to see that get fixed. And I want to see if I'm really intrigued to see if my guy, if some of the younger guys try to take a step up and steal some spots from some of the older guys. Like I think the Ravens need to really see if Daniel Falele, if he's going to take a next step at right tackle. If he can take that right tackle spot from Morgan Moses, that's the best thing that you could ask for. Because if a young guy comes in and he's ripping that starting spot from an older guy like that, then that's how you know they're set, especially on the offensive line.
I agree with you. And before I kick it over to Josh, one offensive player that I think is going to make the team, he's an undrafted rookie. He's a second-generation Raven, the son of Anthony Mitchell, running back Keaton Mitchell, fastest kid in college last year, undrafted free agent. I think he's going to make some waves. He might be the guy that replaces Justice Hill on the team, even though I'm a Justice Hill guy. I think Keaton might have a chance to really make some waves. And from what I remember reading correctly, that John Simpson is in the lead for left guard right now. But Josh, what are you anticipating, man?
I'm just excited to see this offense come together. I'm excited to see how it's all going to fit. With the tight ends, Andrews, and how much better is likely got from year 1 to year 2. Um, I'm excited. I haven't been this excited for a Ravens offense in a long, long time. I'm not too concerned with the defense besides the pass rush. If the pass rush isn't there, McDonald, I think, proved last year, man, he's going to be a great D coordinator. Um, we saw what he did against the Bengals 3 times, and he completely had them confused. But I don't ever remember offense like this. I don't ever remember having this many good receivers. I mean, you just listed like 6 good receivers. What the fuck? That's weird. Like it's weird, and I'm just afraid, man, because the thing in the back of my mind that scares me is, throughout the Ravens' history, it's always seemed like when we're supposed to be really good, it never happens that way. But when we're not, it's kind of like when we, take off. But I don't know. We'll see, man. If Lamar can stay healthy, is he going to play the same now that he has that money? Is he going to be a lot more free? Can Lamar understand this new system that's a little more complex? How hard is he going to work? I don't know if anybody's been watching this. It's Top 10 on Netflix, The Quarterback. I didn't even understand like what these guys, they take bumps and bruises, but like the extent they go, like with Kirk Cousins training his brain and all this wild shit they do to make the right reads and throw good balls out there. Look, Lamar. I love Lamar. I wanted to keep Lamar. But what scares me with Lamar is he hasn't finished the season healthy in a while, and he hasn't looked the same in a while. I know 2 years ago, the first 8 games, he was in the MVP talks. He was leading all these great comebacks, but he was still missing a lot of throws. He was still missing a lot of reads. I watched a lot of tape on Lamar. Matt can tell you I'm kind of a film guy, like watching it and breaking it down. And he was missing reads all over the field. How much we're going to find out how much was that Greg Roman, how much is that Lamar. We're going to see, man. Yeah, I'm excited. I love this time of year, man. I just hope everybody stays healthy. And once the Raven season starts, I hate all the other teams. I hate all their fans. I start talking shit, and it's just I love football, man.
I think that we're going to see a couple of things. Don't be shocked if you see a veteran QB in camp. As much as
Josh Johnson's gonna be there, right?
Josh Johnson's going to be a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm not going to. Don't be surprised if somebody like Teddy Bridgewater, is a camp body. I mean, they love Huntley. Josh Johnson's back again. But from what we're getting from media reports is that Huntley's not picking up this offense.
No, it's not looking good.
And I'll tell you something about Teddy too. Is that Teddy's a Miami guy, so I think that plays in his favor. He's a Louisville guy. That also plays in his favor. He has that familiarity with Lamar. Him and Lamar are cool with each other, and I think that'll help out. But he also Lamar respects Teddy too, and I think that's really good.
Because Lamar sat behind Teddy his last year.
Yep.
Teddy'd be a great backup, man. Teddy'd be a great backup here.
And the thing is, at this point in his career, he doesn't care if he starts.
Yeah, it's a mutual respect between the two of those guys. I thought a couple of years ago, I thought maybe Tyrod would have been a good fit for the offense back when Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator. Now I think Teddy fits his offense significantly better. But the one thing I will say though, this is another thing that concerns me about this team. The freaking cornerback situation scares me. That's got to
we're injury away. That's a good point.
It reminds me of the 2014 team. Like, when we talked about like this is something you talked about, but like, yes, when the Ravens are supposed to be good, that's when things start hitting the fan. But one time that things didn't quite fully hit the fan, but they still did hit the fan was 2014 when that offense was humming. Defense was fine up until you got to the secondary. And then when the secondary went, everything else went. And that's what the Ravens have to be concerned about, because I look at Mike McDonald. Mike McDonald's defense is a little bit more read, react. very not too different than Dean Pease's defense, but definitely a little bit different, more aggressive, I would say, than Dean Pease's defense for sure. But I just, I think it's one of those defenses that the coverage guys, they have to do their job so you could get those sacks. They're not going to be a aggressive attacking defense like, when you had not like Chuck Pagano or not like Wink, those kind of guys. It's not going to be that type of defense. It's going to be a defense that's going to sit back and wait. And if your corners aren't holding guys down and locking guys down, especially at the, when they get to the nickel, that's when I'm like, oh my God, what is going to happen? I don't know. I mean, that's the one thing. I mean, I think Brandon Stevens, he'll take a step up.
He's moved back to safety though.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I mean, he's gonna be a nickel guy though, too. He's
gonna be the Chuck Clark. He's taking Chuck's role over. We signed Rock Ya-Sin. I like the move. I think
Rock Ya-Sin too.
Me too.
He's a good outside
Just
corner.
bring Peters back. Get Peters back.
I don't think that's happening.
It's not.
That ship has sailed. Yeah. I do believe that they're going to. The one change that the NFL made to the preseason this year is that they're not doing cuts in incremental situations like week by week. Now you got to make all your cuts from 90 to 53 at one time.
What?
Ooh.
So there's now going to be a scramble with a lot of veteran cuts the last week of the preseason. So we could see maybe a potential cornerback that, gets cut and the Ravens can possibly bring in. I'm still waiting on them to bring in another pass rush guy, not necessarily on the edge, but interior. I've championed this with everybody that I've talked to all three of you guys separately. I think Jadeveon Clowney is the perfect fit for the Ravens to take over the Calais Campbell role, not necessarily the same position because Calais is a 5-technique, 3-technique defensive end, and Clowney's a 5-technique edge guy. So that's where they differ. But Clowney's that veteran that can bolster your run stoppage up in front, and he can provide the occasional inside pressure, and he doesn't need to be a full-time starter. You can start Pierce, Matabike, and Broderick Jones, rotate in Travis Jones and Jadeveon Clowney and Brent Urban, and then you got the rotation of Owe, Bowser, Ojabo, Tavian Robinson on the outside. So
I'm excited for Ojabo, man.
Me too. Ojabo looks like he's the real deal. I'm excited about that. I do believe that we're going to make a move for somebody. What do you guys think about the trade that keeps on popping up? I know it's more internet fodder than anything, but a potential Patrick Queen, Chase Young swap.
Hey,
what?
I think if that were the case, they would probably have to give up something with Patrick Queen.
Maybe a 4th or a 5th round pick.
Yeah, it's one of those situations, but we'll see what happens.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind having Chase Young, but that's going to be hefty on the salary cap because I think he's in the 4th year of his deal. Mm-hmm. I like the way things are going right now. I really do believe that we're going to make some additions. And another thing that I saw today, and I don't know if you guys had heard about it, but now the NFL has outlawed handoffs in front of the quarterback in the RPO offense. I'm not sure if the rule change prevents handoffs from the running back to the quarterback to the running back in front of I guess they're outlawing it.
So I can't snap it like this and hand it off like this.
Yeah, apparently all the handoffs got to come from behind the quarterback.
What?
I heard it today. I haven't seen anything. I looked it up earlier. I couldn't see anything. So that's just where I'm at. I mean,
you could still do an RPO like that, but it would have to be offset a little bit. So you would just have to, I get it. I mean, I don't like it, but I get it. It's stupid because Peyton Manning used to do. You remember when Peyton Manning used to do play action fakes? He'd have the running back right next to him.
Yeah.
in a handoff. I mean, that's how it should be.
Yeah.
You shouldn't restrict the offenses because the defenses can't stop it.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you want to let the defenses knock guys' heads off again so they could get an advantage once again. I mean, and they don't want to do that. So
That's
I
true.
don't know, man.
I
don't like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, obviously Lamar in 2019, baffled people so much, and Jalen Hurts this past year. I don't see any logic behind that. I mean, that must have been a lot of defensive coordinators banging on the table, saying it's what are they trying to say? It's an indefensible play. Is that the logic behind it?
It's a defensible play.
Yeah,
to me, because I think it's easier to stop. To me, it's harder to stop a pistol offense when you are turning around like that. Because the thing is, when you fake it to the side, it's not. I mean, that's going to be an outside zone run. If you're faking it behind you, now you're opening it up for an outside zone run, an inside zone run, a dive. And then you also still have a play action fake that you could run through. You could run a quarterback bootleg off of that. I mean, it's so many different things that you could do out of a pistol. And that's handing it off right behind the quarterback. And I don't understand. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I was looking around for it because I wanted to talk about it in the football portion of the show, man. But I hope that it isn't. I hope that to a degree it is not true because they're trying to make things too complicated at this point. But I do want to bring up one name that I was thinking about for cornerback, Kyle, and I know you touched on the cornerbacks. Are you opposed to Anthony Averett making a return?
You see how I froze for a little bit because that's how Anthony Averett's going to look when he's on the line lining up against a great receiver.
Nice.
He's going to be frozen.
That was good. Nice.
He's going to be frozen. I mean,
very well done, sir.
That was nice. Good
that's
job.
the thing. I mean, no. Absolutely not. And this is the thing. Anthony Averett's he's a great guy. He is. He truly is.
He's a nice guy.
He's a great guy. I've talked with him a bunch of times when I covered the Ravens back at 105.7. Very good dude, always willing to talk, but I just think that ship has sailed. And that's no offense to the only criticisms I have of him are as a football player and not as a person. That's the biggest thing that I want to make sure that people hear from me. I'm not one of those people that are gonna sit there and bash a player as a person, but as a football player, no. I'm sorry. They just can't. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, we need to add something to the cornerback room because we have a lot of unproven guys right now. You have Trayvon Mullen that we claimed. I think the ace in the hole with Trayvon is that Lamar Jackson is his relative. I think they're cousins. And we drafted Caillou Blue Kelly. And we have Jalen Armour Davis and Pepe Williams held over from the last year's draft class. And we have Darryl Worley back. And if I'm not mistaken, Kevin Seymour is back as well.
Dude, so Worley plays good when he gets a shot, man. I like Worley.
Yeah, so do I. I think Worley played well down the stretch last year. He warranted another contract to come back.
And Cincy, that one game, he was having the game of his freaking life.
I do believe that we just got to make an addition somewhere. But, yeah, that's going to wrap the show, fellas. We spent a good 45 minutes on the Baltimore Orioles tonight, or close to it. We touched all the bases there. We're hitting a little bit of a rough patch against these Dodgers. Hopefully we can avoid the sweep tomorrow. And we can right the ship because I believe we got Tampa Bay right after this. So
yeah, I was so excited for this fucking series too.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, I've been looking up this rule change, Matt. So that's why I've been kind of off to the side here. And so it says that teams will be penalized for handing the ball off forward. Handoffs will have to be behind the quarterback or equal to the quarterback. Now, the competition committee proposed making handling the football forward akin to an illegal forward. Okay. So I'm wondering if that's more of like the, how like the Chiefs do like the little pitch thing right in front of the line. You know,
That's considered a forward pass, and what they're talking about is the RPO. They're pretty much outlawing the RPO at that point because
Oh man, that is
with
so freaking
with Lamar,
stupid.
with what Lamar does is he goes from the pistol, he catches the ball, and then if you notice, a lot of the time he holds the ball out in front of him for either a delayed handoff or a fake. So they're now limiting that, and they're litigating that out of the game.
You only can
But
move
what
3
is the
yards.
logic?
You only can move 3 yards down the field as an offensive line too. That's limiting the RPO because in college you could go 5 yards down the field, and in high school you could go 5 yards down the field. Now you're limiting the plays behind the offensive line too. I mean, it's stupid. It ruins football. It's like why are you taking innovation out of football, man?
You've already litigated the violence.
They're going to ruin the game, dude. They're ruining it. They're ruining it. I get player safety to a degree. I get player safety to a degree. I understand that, but on the other side of it, no one is forcing you to play the game. When you sign up to play football, you know it's a possibility you could get your head knocked off. You know it's a possibility you could get killed. I mean, it's a gladiator sport, and you keep taking all this out, man. I mean, shit.
Yeah.
I miss the damn big hits, man. The NFL used to come out with the big greatest hits of the year. Seeing dudes getting knocked the fuck out, you can't even watch that anymore.
It's crazy. No, you're good. Go ahead, Brian.
I was just gonna say real quick is that it's almost like the only big hits you see now are like just throwing a shoulder at the guy, making a wild hit. Like nobody wraps up for number one because maybe they are afraid of some head to helmet, so they don't want to put the head in the chest. But then you also have the they just don't know how to tackle anymore. They're not teaching it as much.
I think more kids need to play rugby growing up. That'll help.
I
mean, it'll toughen you up too, but yeah, it'll help form tackling. I think rugby players are some of the best tacklers. But
because you can't use your head in rugby.
Sport, man.
So I played it at St. Joe my senior year, so
I broke my leg my first game at St. Joe playing rugby. Why do you not? Sophomore year, broke my leg.
Yep. Sorry to talk me into it.
They were
That's a rough sport.
I came back to football. I had small fracture, but they were, had to rest that off. Couldn't play rugby again. You already know how that goes. Football is it at St. Joe.
Yep. Football and basketball are the only two sports you can play where you don't play anything else unless you wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So that'll wrap the show, folks. Before we let everybody go, hang around for post-show for a couple minutes, fellas. But Kyle, let everybody know where they can find you on social media, and please let everybody know your latest accomplishment today.
So everybody could follow me at Kyle J Andrews _ on Twitter. And today I got into a grad program today at Penn State. I know everybody here is a Maryland fan. I still like Maryland basketball. Let's be completely honest. But Maryland, I'll tell you right now, that school would never admit me. I'm a UB guy through and through. I went to University of Baltimore, got my English degree there, but I'm going to go get my marketing analytics and insights masters at Penn State University. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully I can get into some data analytics. Who knows? Maybe one day I might try to work for a baseball team or a football team, even a basketball team. Who knows? I don't know, but I'm enjoying my time up here. And I'm glad that I got into grad school. That'll be fun.
Awesome,
absolutely.
Man. Congratulations.
Let everybody know what podcast you're bringing over to the Driving to the Top network.
So, tomorrow, grand opening of the Capital Crossover podcast. Wizards podcast, Washington Wizards. That's what we do over there. Two of our guys, Jack Skolnick and Jordan Teixeira, they're both coming over with me. We're finally getting to the Driving to the Top network. I'm excited about it. We got a really cool video that we're starting off with. I love these introduction videos that the network does, and we're getting a good one too. Wizards have a ton of stuff to talk about this offseason. Jordan Poole's with the team. Kuz re-signed. You traded Bradley Beal. Traded Kristaps Porzingis. I thought Kuz was a garner, to be completely honest. And then, not to mention, they signed a ton of coaches on their coaching staff the past couple of weeks too. So I think that's something to look forward to. The Wizards are going to be a weird team this upcoming season. It might not be good, but I'll tell you one thing: they'll be fun, and that's the first time I could say the Wizards will be fun in years because they're a young team, and I like the direction that they're going.
Absolutely. So we're looking forward to the podcast joining the network. And Brian, let everybody know where they can catch your show. The juices are flowing again, my man. Let everybody know.
Yep. So No Bull Sports will be back here very shortly, going forward, onward and upward. Probably starting sometime next week. Got to get a little my equipment back up here and running. But once we're good with that, get that back going. That's going to be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and then Matt, we'll actually talk about the StreamYard deal as well. Help me out a little bit setting that up, and we'll be back going. And all you Instagrammers, that's really I'm not on Facebook anymore. I don't have Twitter or anything. Instagram is really the only social media I have. So look out for that, and then we'll be marketing it. Don't worry.
Absolutely. Can't wait for that. Josh, go ahead and sign us off, my man.
All right, Baltimore sports fans. I know the Orioles got fucked up tonight, but we'll be all right. Football's about to start. Orioles are going to win it all.
I totally forgot to promote Thursday night show.
Wait, no, hell no. Yeah, tell them.
Cadre Ismail, Thursday night,
9:15
on Charm City Heavyweights.
I got a lot of questions I want to ask about when Tony Banks was taken out. I want to ask about all kinds of shit.
Cadre Ismail is in 2 nights, 9:15 Eastern.
Biggest show since Jeremy Kahn. Shut it down, Matt. Biggest show since Jeremy Kahn and the baseball dude. I missed my bad. Shut us down.
Tim Kirkshin?